Thank you, Josh, for setting this up. And I'd love to hear how this all came to be, this moment to connect.
Well, originally Brandon and I sat next to each other over the summer. We went to the Pasadena Pops concert. We were both at Larry Blank's table, which was kind of a fun VIP table close to the stage. And I was sitting next to Brandon, and because Maud Maggart, his lovely and talented daughter, was one of the principal singers with Michael Feinstein and the Pops that night, and we were talking about stuff. And then someone said, and then I think uh, I can't remember if I knew that you were that you had done applause. Like I don't think I knew that that's who you were, and we hadn't cast it yet, so it didn't like, oh, I'm going to be Buzz too. I had to talk about in terms of that. But I think then later afterwards, we talked and had a nice time, and we talked about your daughter and everything. And then I think later on when I got cast, I went, oh my gosh, I wish I had known that when I was sitting next to you for a couple of hours that night. And that's how we and then Larry Blank gave me your information from that night. And that's how I kind of contacted you. So that's how we know each other and then how we've developed it. We had a wonderful phone conversation. But I would love to ask some of those same questions here tonight because I think it's so, having done developmental of new shows, like, Leslie was in the first production of La Cage aux Folles as Anne, the daughter Anne on my arm. That's Anne on my arm is Miss Lovely, gorgeous Leslie. And I've done the second production of it was already established of Les Mis. And then, having done Kiss of the Spider Woman and really going through the trenches of multiple, like daily different versions of stuff like that. So I was asking about the development of applause, and saying, when did Comden and Green come on? Into kind of do book doctoring, and like you were talking about the development and the shifting of it through previews and out of town stuff with the second act number, the wonderful trio that wasn't in the show. Right. It was just a scene at the top of two.
Well, since you mentioned Good Friends, I've done Charles Kersey's show several times, but he asked how we got into the show in the first place, like how'd we audition and how'd we get in? And I said, I don't remember auditioning. Now, I remember auditioning for, so many shows you wouldn't believe. But I don't remember that, except Ron Field had seen me in some shows and put me on it. Now we went into rehearsal, and it's right before Christmas, and we had a different Dwayne then, and they fired him, and Leroy Reams came in. And then at that time, Diane McAfee was playing Eve Harrington. And she actually, not the Gypsy Run. Yeah, again, the Gypsy Run through in New York before going out of town, with just the piano. Now, the Good Friends wasn't in the show at the time. It wasn't in the show when we opened in Baltimore. But we opened in Baltimore. And the sets that move in on the tracks, move in like that. And that dressing room, if you weren't on stage, if you kept hearing the orchestra going da 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 da, that means the jets had crashed into each other and they're having to pull them apart. The show ran like over 3 hours, and it was just it wasn't a great night. And that was and Leroy Reams. I love Leroy. I've been in 3 shows with Leroy. Leroy played the gay hairdresser, and the first night he came out, and because says to him, "We're going out for a party." He says to Dwayne, "Bring a date," and he said, "Already, he's coming," or something like that, and that the audience went, "Oh!" It was shocking that they were so upset that he's dating another guy. It was, I mean, God forbid 2 guys dance together. But anyways, then we opened there, and it was not great. Then they fired Diane. Of course, Brad, when you get out of town and shows, everybody when the sets crash into each other, they start looking to replace people. Now, in our meetings, our anniversary shows, nearly everybody said they thought they were going to be fired. Lynn Carey thought he was going to be fired. It never crossed my mind I was going to be fired. I don't know why, but I never thought Diane McAfee was going to be fired because she was so talented and so she was on top of things. In rehearsal, Bacall would forget where to do this and where to hang the coat and where to do this. And Diane would say, just do this, do that. And she was just, she had a beautiful lyric voice, which turned out to be her downfall. Because they were looking for things, and they came in, and Diane was visiting a friend, and they came to me because they knew we were friends. And the assistant stage manager came to me on that first weekend off, said, Brandon, Bacall wanted to tell Diane because she really liked her so much, but said, and everybody's out of town, but you're going to have to tell Diane because she's got to come back and do the show for a full week after knowing she's going to be fired.
Oh my God.
Fired. And so then I had to tell her, and I said something. I said something terrible has happened to the show. She said, "Did you get fired?" I said, no, honey. I said it which is you.
Brandon, I have a question just for me, and because I don't have it in front of me. But you went to Baltimore for out of town? Did you go to another city for out of town, or did you just have one stop before you went back to New York?
Oh no, then we went to whatever the next step was, Detroit, or
okay,
I think it's Detroit, and then we went. I'm going to lead into probably something you'd rather hear of the Good Friends number.
Yeah,
we knew it was the scene was there when the gypsy run through, but there wasn't a song, and it was like And we got out of town, and then Comden and Green came into the show during that weekend to help with the lyrics and the music, and so the four of them got together over the weekend. And the four composers and lyricists got over the weekend and wrote around the clock and came up with Good Friends and gave it to us. And we opened it and did it. And it made all the difference in the world. Now, I sent you the review that I think was not what it was Walter Kerr. They said that was the point in the show that was really made the show happen, that you could see these wonderful people that loved each other, trusted each other, but each one of them wanted to have, like Buzz wanted to have his words spoken like they were meant to be spoken by a character that could speak them. But, in big shows, you get hooked up with a big star, then you have to acquiesce, and you have to do like that. So when they came to me and said, I said she'd been fired, I said, why? They said, because she couldn't, she was so young, and Bacall was older and had such presence, she was no threat to Bacall. I said, wait. Yeah, just a minute here. What's really a threat to an older woman? A younger woman with a beautiful voice, and Bacall had this big voice, which served the purpose. It was Bacall singing, which should be in any show, the person singing the song, unless it's an opera or something like that. And so they said to me, Ron Field said, well, I said, I've written this little thing. I've rewritten that scene. The audacity of me telling Betty and Adolph that I'm rewritten their scene. And I did it, and I took Diane, and we did it for Ron Field. And he said, oh my God. I said, you have to show Eve because originally when Eve gets hired as the to go on, the scene was she came out, and the stage manager's there, and she says blah blah, and everybody runs on stage and say, you're in. I said, you have to, that doesn't show anything. It's a gratuitous kind of thing. You have that brief scene with he and stage manager and me, whatever. I said, and show don't let the audience know that it's an audition scene. Show the fire in that little woman's ass, and having a thing, and they think she's having an argument with a stage manager, a real argument. And then at the end of it, there's a quiet, and then the stage manager turns around and look at the audience, and then everybody explodes because they've seen magic happen. After we did it, Betty Nadoff came up to me and I said, "Oh my God, I'm going to be fired for what I'd done. It was insane." And she said, "Brandon, we just wanted to thank you so much for giving us a new look at that scene."
It's the whole setup for the song and their friendship over the top of, their bonding against this, that turning point in the story, both in the film and the musical. So
and there's and
the guilt. For Karen.
With Karen and Buzz, there's not that too many chances, but what makes it so good is to show them as really a loving couple. That they don't have children, so Buzz might have been gay, we don't know, but they're a loving couple, and they really are bound together, and they actually love Margot. But Margot, it's her show. But everybody wants to have, and Karen has been befriending with Eve. Eve wormed her way into everybody backstage and around, And Eve and Karen had drained the gas tank. I didn't. Buzz doesn't know it, and Margot doesn't know it. And in the middle of the song, with the lyrics leaning into Karen, all of a sudden. Every lyric, gas tank, oh my God. And she faints at the end.
Right.
That's what makes us say, oh God. Yeah. Really, because everybody in showbiz and theater, most of us are friends. We've known each other a few minutes. We're friends already. Because we carry with us, I have so many old friends that getting in touch with me over 50, 60 years. We've been in shows or were in shows at the same time on Broadway. We didn't know each other, but we knew each other. And we knew back then it was like a smaller community. And everybody knew everybody. It's just an amazing thing to come together. And thank you for pulling me into this and to
of course, yeah.
I wanted to ask just quickly, because I'm framing this against when I showed up in New York to see how far ahead. So even though the show says it's happening like in 1969 or whatever with the Tonys, or in 68, then if you go ahead of it, or 67, 68. But when were you actually like in Baltimore and opening?
Somebody else.
Oh, yeah. So look it up.
We opened in 1970. So that was it. Christmas in 69. Rehearsals in 70, and then opened like 2 months later. So in 1970.
When I got there, I felt like I had a glimpse of your generation, but that there was this. Feel like I got a glimpse of a whole community, and most of them were kind of leaving, and I was like, "Hey, wait a minute," and but it was interesting, because I was trying to place it. But yeah, there was a feeling that I had that there was a big turn and shift in this whole kind of creative community was sort of taking their exit, or shifting. And I just got the tiniest glimpse of it. And I feel like working on this show a little bit, I mean, I love the period of the original film, but through the show, I feel like it really captures that time. To me, it feels like.
And the 1970s shock of it, the 70s shock just after Stonewall, basically, to put this into the musical. And that's why Baltimore is probably like, you know what I mean? Now it's so, I mean.
who is in the chorus was Nick Dante and Sammy Williams. Were both in the show. Now, I knew them, of course, during rehearsals and out of town. And, in company, Sammy Williams got the Tony for telling Nick Dante's true story that they developed. I knew the story before company was ever involved or was even thought about. The string of talking about people sticking together and telling stories that make shows and get together. putting it together bit by bit. It
Yes,
is so
exactly.
exciting to look back in this thing, and yeah, it was a wonderful time. And
Brad had, I think, had a question, Brandon.
Um, yeah, I have a couple of questions. One question is about the music, because I believe when Charles Strauss started to write it, there had not really been any rock shows on Broadway at all, and he wasn't really planning to write a rock and roll show. And then things like Hair come along, and there's supposedly this point where Charles Strauss says to his orchestrator, Don Walker, I think you're a little too old to orchestrate this show. And Don Walker points out, well, you're 2 years older than me. So, but I mean, there's a lot of groundbreaking stuff in Applause. And, was it shocking to you as a Broadway performer to be suddenly doing the most up-to-date music in the country?
well, I was doing New Faces in 1968. And, that was an incredible year of tragedies, assassinations,
Oh my God! Yeah.
riots, and everything. And then we, when after Dr. King was assassinated, and Bobby Kennedy, and we opened to, we had that little show. It was we really liked it. I'd worked on it for 2 years. We did New Faces '66 with Ronnie Graham and Marion Mercer, and then we're backers auditions for 2 years to get it on Broadway. Then all this happened, and then it opened and closed. So this is show business, huh?
Was it hard to learn that? Because I mean, I'm finding it, well, two things. I mean, we are incredibly lucky to have such a prepared creative team. We are jumping this into our body so quickly, as Musical Theater Guild always does. And then, we have these fantastic, hardworking, talented company that's very wonderfully diverse in this production, which is just so great. But it's so unusual. It's an unusual score, just trying to find that syncopation and where the downbeat is, like in Fasten Your Seatbelts. And it's like, oh my goodness. Of course, now we're used to that through so many different composers that have that. But when it first hit melodically, and also, what was your favorite song too?
I mean, Brad, back to what you said about rock and roll, that's when Hair opened. And when Hair opened, I said, oh, we're fucked. It's just so old hat, and it's so cute and dainty, this and cute, which was good at the time. And then maybe many more years later, reflecting on that, but at the time, but Hair just blew the roof off everything. We closed, and it's terrible after all that to work on a show to open and close like that. But everything usually, you make friends, it leads to other things. New orchestrations come in, new kinds of music come in. Unfortunately, a lot of other kind of sound. We had no microphones. Back then. There were, right before I came in, there were footlights. And then the big stars like Carol Channing, I did the show with her, Lorelei with her, and she wore a body mic.
Brad, did you have a follow up on that, or?
Lauren Bacall had not been known as a singer, and she had a large stentorian voice. Was it easy to integrate with her? Was it easy to sing in a normal way in the same show with her?
Yeah, because like in Good Friends, it's almost like speak sing in Good Friends. You're on a tune. It's not like you're singing Vesti La Juba, So you just three friends like talking and singing in tune kind of thing. It was easy. And she was wonderful to work with.
Glad to hear that. I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah.
Didn't she and Len Cariou become romantically involved at that point?
Showmance.
Yeah, they did. And Len, they admit it, but when they got back in town, they just became friends again.
Two questions for you. My sense of it, I'm not sure if this is actually like laid down and discussed. I feel, timeline wise in the show that I think that Buzz has, until the moment near the end where he declared that has sharing an apartment with Eve as they're rewriting the new play. I don't think he's ever stepped out on Karen. I think he's incredibly devoted and loves her so much and so grateful to her. But, Eve has her ways of just getting anybody, right? So is that part of that? My question number one is was that discussed in terms of the history of Buzz and Karen? And is my instinct correct? And that's also something I talked about with our director, Trance Thompson. And the second thing is, how it says, they just got this apartment, right? And in the very next scene, Howard says, get your things in the next half hour, let Buzz down easy over the next week. But the timeline's weird. Like, hey, see you tonight at our apartment. Here's the keys. Go get your stuff, Howard says, and bring them to my apartment. And how are you going to let Buzz down easy, splitting that up? It's like you never showed up with your stuff. I'm just confused about that moment of let him down easy, like over a week, and then the immediacy of the switch. And how is that? That's the one thing I go, how did that follow through?
Hey, wait a minute. You're telling me that there was dialogue when I wasn't on the stage?
I'm always in the wings lurking like I'm just there.
No, in fact, in big musicals, a lot of time, there's not all that much discussion in a character and subtleties. It goes from musical downbeat to this, to tempo, to this, to get off stage, the light changing, the sound comes on. There's a beautiful voice here. There's a rhythmic kind of thing there. It's like kind of all in the thing. But
did you and Anne, who played Karen, did you guys ever kind of work that out, or did you work it out with Penny, or work it out with Diane?
It was inherent in the beast that what we had to go on. It makes sense that we loved each other, like I said, worked together, and had great respect for each other. But
so you felt? Was that the correct instinct? What I just said? Do you think that that's the truth for that couple? Do you think that? And also by the Tony Awards a couple of years later, do you think after the Howard go get your things? Do you think Buzz and Karen are back together at the top of the show as before we flash back?
Oh, I think in the offstage mind of us, we were never apart. There was never a split. There was never a split. Never a split between Buzz and Karen, but Buzz had a splinter. He had a splinter, which happened so many. It's like I watched that movie again, a Bernstein film about last night again.
Maestro.
That a great love they had for each other.
Really, just I'm absorbing kind of the vibe and point of view as you're telling these stories, because it seems like a lot of the relationship, as you're saying, that the focus is on the elements of the show coming together, making the whole experience work, and there wasn't a lot of discussion about the nuance of character, that you guys just found the groove or the storytelling in each other through the doing.
It's exactly right. Like it only made sense in all the in the minutia of what's in a musical script like that. You make sense of it yourself, and it's. I'm sure you two guys love and respect each other, and and Karen doesn't know, but he does his own thing, but Ann Williams played that role. Guida Donhow came in and replaced her. Anne was a warm one. Guida Donhow was played it more like Betty Davis. She had a lot of inside going, like she had a lot of thoughts going on inside, like she knew what everybody was doing, but she didn't say it.
Did you prefer that approach to Karen? Did it seem like just wildly different and better, or not as good?
So you love all of them, and when they come in, I have a relationship with that one. She's different. She has one of them has a sense of humor, one of them's rather bland, But you work it out how it is. It's easy. I stayed in the show through all the characters. Arlene Dahl was the last Margot. You want to hear? Did I tell you about the opening with Ann Baxter?
Yes. I mean, I love Ann Baxter. I think she's so talented. I'd love to hear how it
was
the stage.
It was such a thing And I talk, all about Eve and the gay community in America, in the East Coast, in New York. When Ann Baxter came to the show as Eve Harrington, I swear to God, opening night, all you had to do is say hello, and the audience went Yahoo! Arlene Dahl was entirely different. Arlene Dahl was just like a model, beautiful. She paid a lot of attention to her clothes, flowing just like this, and she was very nice too.
But you're taking me back. My dad had a crush on Arlene Dahl. He told me. Oh gosh.
What?
My dad had a crush on Arlene Dahl. He told me, and I didn't really get it in my youth. But hearing you mention her and explain, I'm like, Okay.
She was, and she would make a mistake on stage, and she said, "Oh, I fucked that one up, didn't I?" What are you guys doing? Like it was like she was in summer stock or something.
This is another question, actually, that one other cast member, I want to make sure I get it asked for you because I want to make sure it gets asked. When you first heard the score at the very top, what was the favorite song, or maybe over the course of like in the show, whether let's say your song, but your favorite like the song that you thought, oh my gosh, I just think this is a great musical theater song. It's such a great new.
Well, I think everybody. Welcome to the theater.
Boy,
is
that the truth of that?
I'm
amazing.
telling you, even today, when in my last show, I start out, I say, where painted trees and flowers grow, and laughter rings fortissimo, and treachery is neatly done. Welcome to the theater, you fool.
Right.
You'll love it so.
Which is such a great echo to All About Eve. The dialogue that Mankiewicz wrote in that is completely the Bible.
Say that again. The dialogue that who wrote?
The dialogue that Mankiewicz, didn't he write and direct Eve? Am I the film?
Originally written by an actress, I forget her name right, Mary Orr.
That was the story. That was the wisdom of Eve, the novella.
Yeah.
But that was based on that. But I think Mankiewicz, who directed it, I believe, also was contributing to the.
I'm not sure about that. I'm not sure, but they were told. They was very limited in what they could lift from the movie. Not copyright laws.
But I'm saying, just like the content is so real, the glamour and the backstage truth and the relationship, the treachery, everything that's put into that song is
all right.
Completely
stop you right.
Yeah.
You talk about the glamour in the backstage.
Well, we all know that's.
Wait just a minute. Yeah, we all know
what glamour.
But any of you opening a big show, if it's a big hit, everybody in the world that ever was on the front page of anything is there opening night, taking pictures with her, whatever. And I'd been in so many shows that were flops. You would believe, and kind of run for a little while, whatever. And this was my first big show that was just, I mean, we out of town. We had previews just a couple of days, it seemed like, or less than a week. And then we opened and we got nominated. Most of them were nominated for, I got nominated for a Tony. And Bacall, of course, she won. Jim Carrey, Bonnie Franklin. Look up on the next day out front. All critics say, full right, greatest hit ever, whatnot, not that big hit. Talk about a head swimming, going through that.
I'm afraid I must jump. I have some obligations. One of my other jobs is teaching college. I have a few things to take care of before I see you in rehearsal tonight. But what a privilege to get to talk to you, Brandon, and I hope it is not the last time. Thank you so much.
Well, you're a pleasure, and I wish you have a great time. And I just hearing your voice and seeing the glow from your face, I know that you can do most anything.
She can. Wait.
Thank you for setting this up. And Brandon, I just want to say again, you've given me the great gift to remember. I had the blessing as a teenager to be in New York and around this stuff. And it's been so long and I've lived many places. Sometimes I think I just dreamt it. And then being in your presence, I say, oh yes, no. I do remember. So thank you. Thank you.
I love that. Anyway, I want to thank you for that.
Well, thank you.
And
So,
Donald Pippen, I got to tell you about conducting then.
Yeah.
Donald Pippen's like a Tennessee guy, and so am I. But yeah, and in Good Friends, you come out in the corner, you look at your eye, and Don's standing up, but this guy's eyes closed. He kept his eyes closed unless he was really the baton. The audience couldn't see it, and he was rather unobtrusive there. His eyes closed. I'm thinking, oh, is he going to get ready? Is he going to get ready? Yeah.
Did you ever ask Don why he closed his eyes? Like what that was? Was it just kind of knowing and hearing the rhythm, or just like I just need to rest my eyes, or what?
I don't know if I did or not, but he was always there. He never missed the cue. It's a way of concentrating, I guess. I don't know. Of feeling the rhythm of it, of knowing 5, 6, 7, 8. I don't know.
I was just talking with Larry Blank on a Zoom about Don Pippen and about all of the innovations that he brought, to the decade of the 70s, most of which he worked out during Applause. While he was working with you, that's when Don Pippen figured out ideas like the safety, a very short vamp that could be absolutely any length, using click tracks to synchronize extra vocals from the pit. Applause was Don Pippen's declarative show as to the new way to do music.
Don Pippen might have been writing another show while he was waiting to coming on the cue. It's the time. when you're so involved, of course, if you got to jump tracks, but when you're creative and so involved and thinking about it, it's a nice life. If you get a paycheck. Now, I must say, I finally left Broadway. My name was still up in front of 2 theaters at the same time, and I was back on the street. Then I came west to make a living.
Yeah. Are you gonna be able to come out to the production of Applause at the Broad this Sunday?
I can't sit in a chair.
Sure.
For very long. I have a friend, Mary Cross, is coming. But when I go anywhere else, I have to bring a folding chair that has like a rocker and stuff to sit for 2 hours. But, it's impossible, really. I had a great time talking to you guys, and come to my house sometime. All right.
We'd love it.
All right, bye-bye.
I can't wait to share more. Thank you, Brandon. You've been such a gift. And see you soon. Bye.